Look, I took over a border where 25 million people came into our country, many of them murderers. These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting.
I remember when Trump was challenging the results of the 2020 presidential election in literally dozens of court cases. And one of the things that the right was complaining about was the idea of election security that would effectively impose national rules onto states when it comes to how they carry out their election process. Anyway, today, President Donald Trump called on Republicans to nationalize the voting. And this was during an appearance on the disgraced former deputy FBI director Dan Bongino, who was part of the Epstein file cover-up. He also harped on his usual conspiracies about undocumented immigrants voting and warned that Republicans would never win an election again if they don't do something about it right away. But before we get to all of that, Cenk, your 2 cents.
This is the bright red line. This cannot happen. So we'll talk about the hypocrisy if you're a right winger who supports this. By the way, this isn't about the right wing, it's about the uniparty. I want to tell you why. But if this stands, then elections have no meanings and the entire country is lost. So it's a super important story. Anna, tell us more.
Well, first, why don't we check in on a little document referred to as the United States Constitution and what it has to say about the notion of nationalizing voting. Turns out it runs counter to the Constitution. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. Now, nonetheless, this isn't the first time he called on the federal government to seize control of election administration from the states. In fact, last summer, he promised to sign an executive order bringing honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. He probably realized pretty quickly that he's losing favorability and the midterms are probably gonna be a little tougher for Republicans than he would like. And then in August, he said something similar in a Truth Social post. Let me read it to you. He says, remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. Now, of course, he says it's for the good of the country. He's really looking out for his own ass and the Republican Party's ass. And by the way, that's not true. During his appearance on Bongino's show, Trump also repeatedly insisted that he won the 2020 presidential election in a landslide because of a thing called counties. Let's take a look.
Think of it. I won in a landslide. I won every swing state. I won the popular vote by millions. I won everything. I won a thing called counties. The counties it's such a big vote. That's why the map was entirely red when you looked at it. Had 2 little purple lines and 2 blue lines on each side, but it was all red.
He is regarded. Cenk.
Yeah, I won in a thing called counties. What is that? All right, so first let's talk about right-wing ideology. My whole life, states' rights. Everybody knows the Republicans are for states' rights. We don't want the federal government and their jackbooted thugs treading on us. It's important that we have local rule. So here he's saying, forget the Constitution, forget what right wing has been saying our entire lives, screw states' rights, just remove it to national. Now, I'm not gonna do that for red states, I'm just gonna do it for 15 blue states. Gee, you sound like you're really non-biased about this, right? Look, if you're a diehard Trump supporter, there's nothing that I could say that'll change your mind. You'll be like, oh yeah, Trump is the best arbiter. He should hand count those votes. And whatever he tells us after 2 minutes of hand counting millions of votes is true, right? No, if you had let Trump count those votes, those are the most illegitimate things that'll ever happen. And now how can you tell if you're a true conservative, who's right, who's wrong, right? Just think about it, super easy, shoe on the other foot. Remember when Trump was running the first time in 2016, the president was Barack Obama. If Barack Obama said, I'm gonna remove 15 red states, I'm gonna grab those and swing states, and I'm going to count them. No one else is going to count them. I'm going to count them. And the states, you no longer have the right to count your own votes. What would you have done? My guess is you would have been in the streets. You might have gone after the Capitol. There were a lot of things you would have done. And by the way, I'd have backed you, okay? And we criticized Obama when he went beyond the Constitution several times, right? So no, it's unacceptable. The Constitution is non-negotiable. And if you want to amend it, great, go through the amendment process. But if you haven't done that, this is not close. But if any administration takes the voting counting to the national level and takes it away from the states, we're toast. Because then you can't ever count on an actual election being real. We'll never know if they were real or not. And it becomes a totally tin pot dictatorship, authoritarian rule. We become a third world country. And I've been there, man. I've seen countries that have no idea if their elections are real or not. And we're not talking about what's happened already. We're talking about a different level where the guy in charge goes, trust me, bro. That was the election results. No, we don't trust you. And by the way, this isn't done on behalf of the right wing. The powerful are panicking. We got the Epstein files. They're seeing everything that's going on. As we told you in the last segment, they're funneling tons of money to Israel without even congressional approval. A lot of MAGA has turned on Trump because they see him serving Israel, covering up the Epstein files, etc. They're like, we're gonna lose. They just lost by 7. Trump had won a Texas district by 17 points. Democrats won it a couple of days ago.
Right, there was a special election and the candidate that he endorsed pretty hard did not win, the Democrat one.
So the uniparty is going, no, let's lock this thing up. There's way too much dissent on the right and the left. Everybody's paying attention because of online media now. So just grab the ballots. Under no circumstances should this be allowed to stand. This is a democracy, freedom defining issue.
He also nodded to the FBI raid in Fulton County, which I covered on the show last week, teasing that, quote, you're going to see some interesting things come out in Georgia. So I don't know if you saw that story, Cenk. I covered it on Wednesday last week. The FBI carried out a raid of the facility in Fulton County, Georgia. The same facility where Trump called in and asked the Secretary of State? Is that
yes.
Yeah, Secretary of State to find him votes so he could flip Georgia from Biden to Trump.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back.
Anyway, that's what we're dealing with. And additionally, he argued that if undocumented immigrants weren't kicked out of the country, Republicans would never win another election. Let's take a quick look at that.
We have millions of people. Most of them are bad, to be honest with you, because they're not going to send their good people. They want their good people like we. We don't want to have our good people leave. They only send their bad people. We have to get them out. And by the way, if Republicans don't get them out, you will never win another election as a Republican. If you don't get these people are all pitted, so they vote. And they make all this crap with the voting. Oh, well, you can vote, you can do whatever you want. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy how you can get these people to vote. And if we don't get them out, Republicans will never win another election.
Okay, if you are undocumented, you don't have the ability to vote. So it's a stupid argument to begin with, but I just have to make a quick comment about most of the undocumented immigrants in this country being bad. Okay, that's interesting because he employs a lot of them at his businesses. And also, you want to talk to me about bad? You engaged in a cover up of a serial child rapist. You want to talk about bad? Your DOJ refuses to even consider prosecutions of individuals in the Epstein files. You want to talk about bad? Okay, I look at our government and that's where I see bad. That's where I see pedophile protectors and absolute scum, okay, including Trump.
Guys, last thing, undocumented immigrants do not vote. If they voted, I'd be super pissed about it. That's not, you have to be a citizen to vote. There's no question about it. There's no documented evidence of undocumented immigrants voting. And if you're in the right wing and you still are believing that, Think about, where did you hear that from? You're like, no, I'm sure. I heard it on a right-wing show that supports Donald Trump. Go verify it. Go see if you could find any evidence at all of that happening, let alone millions of them. No, you think the Republicans are gonna let millions of undocumented immigrants vote against them? There's no chance of that. They love power. So no, please look into reality. There's so many things that you could be legitimately upset about, but there's not millions of undocumented immigrants voting. This is a giant Trump lie because he lost in 2020 and his feelings are still hurt over it. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.